Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I thought I'd do a bit more work on our cup today. Now as you can see, so far so good. The inside of the cup is looking pretty good. Tool marks need to be sanded out still, but I'm going to leave that for a while. No splitting or cracking as yet, and same on the bottom as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this, even though the bowl really only comes down to sort of about here, I'm going to leave this the full length for the time being. And what that's going to do is if it does start to crack on the bottom here, it just gives it a little bit more scope, so that if it does, as I say, start to crack, I can sort of cut parts of this off as it happens whilst the rest is drying out. So hopefully by the time the core has dried, I may have taken sort of 2 or 3 chunks off of this, and it won't split all the way through. At least that's the theory. But what I'm going to do, all I want to start doing is just taking off some of this bark. And I'm going to use my axe and possibly my knife for this, just to sort of show you 2 different ways you can do it. So I'll bring the camera a bit closer in and we'll make a start. So here's my setup, and all I'm going to do is just take my trusty axe and just start literally shaving off some of this bark. Now hopefully you can see here there's some really nice sporting under this bark. Now whether or not we end up chewing all the way through this and get down to clean wood underneath, I'm not sure. It'd be quite nice to have some of this sporting in here, especially once it's oiled. It will look very nice. But all I really want to do is just get to the wood underneath the bark at the moment. And again, if you don't have an axe or you don't want to use an axe, you can always use a knife. I've got my standard Mora clipper here, which is a brilliant little knife for wood carving work. And again, it just slices straight through it like butter. And again, now I've taken a lot of that bark off. You can see this sporting underneath. Hopefully it will go quite a way through. I may be lucky enough that we can keep some of this, just as I say, so it gives it a nice nice sort of finish. And the other reason I'm leaving this piece quite long is so I can basically flip this over and I've got something to hold on to. I've got a lot of purchase, so I'm not trying to sort of hold down here somewhere and try and do this really with a really small piece of wood. But again, these are the 2 tools that I tend to use for stuff like this. The axe is obviously just gives you a little bit more sort of freedom and room to sort of remove quite a lot of material quite quickly. And that's pretty much it. And really, guys, I could, again, although this isn't particularly deep, and this is more of a test than anything else. I just want to see sort of whether the theory is sound and whether it works. But I could keep this exactly like this. Maybe give it a little bit of a sand inside, tidy it up a little bit, give it an oil and a wax finish, and there's no reason you couldn't drink out of this as it is. It's quite a nice looking cup. I could leave the tool finished on the outside. I could sand it down. There's lots of options here. But all I really want to do at this point now is just start to carve down so that these walls are nice and uniform. Obviously it's thicker up here than it is down here. There is a little bit of sort of pitting and a little bit of rot here. I'm not sure if that's picking up on the camera very well, but sort of just where my finger is, this wood is almost getting to the point where it's punky, whereas and that's probably about 4 or 5 millimeters thick until you get to what I would consider to be sort of good wood, if you like. But all I'm going to do, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes just sort of shaping this down a little bit more, and I'll see where we get to. Right guys, well I've kind of finished up smoothing everything down. As you can see, the sides of the cup, or the sides of the bowl area, are fairly uniform. They're not entirely the same width at the moment, but I'm just going to carry on working that down with my knife. Now that I've got to this kind of stage, and if I put my finger there, you can kind of get an idea of dimensions now. And all I'm going to do is just carry on using my knife just to kind of smooth these down. What I'm also going to do, and again hopefully you can see on the camera there, there are some sort of inconsistencies with the grain here. Some of it's in sort of slightly better condition than others. So all I'm going to do is take my knife and just ever so slightly sort of chamfer off the top. Although it's not a guarantee, that is a very good way of trying to prevent or helping to prevent splitting. And I'll do the same for the internal edge in a second as well. But as you can sort of see, you know, this cup, you know, to all intents and purposes, except for the drying, you know, this is almost ready to use now. And if this was kind of a, you know, just a very kind of quick, simple, I wanted to make something that I could use straight away, this would work right now. You know, it's a nice size. You've got a good sort of handhold on here. You know, you won't fit a great deal of liquid in here, granted. And I could either use a larger branch, or I could try and carve down deeper, which is certainly something I intend on doing in the near future. But as a test of the theory, this is going reasonably well so far, provided it doesn't split on me. What I will do at some point, when I've got a large enough piece of timber that I've been able to harvest, I will make something very similar to this without having to cut into the end grain. So what I'll do is, if I can find a really big section of tree trunk, maybe a fallen tree, something kind of a little bit bigger than my my carving bench maybe, I can split that in half, maybe even quarters, and I can get something this shape and size, but out of a, how can I describe this? You know, I can get a sort of fresh piece of wood, the same sort of thing I would make a bowl out of, the same sort of thing I would make a cookser out of, or maybe even a spoon. But I won't be going straight through the end grain where you've got the pith in the middle, which is where you get the risk of splitting. But as I say, guys, I mean, that's probably about as far as I'm going to take this today. I think I'm probably going to chamfer off just this bottom edge as well, just again to try and prevent a little bit of splitting. Whether that works entirely or not is another matter, but it's, you know, for something that's so simple and easy to do, it's certainly something I would recommend if you're carving green wood, and something, especially when it's something you think that may be at risk of splitting. You know, a quick chamfering off of the edges while you're letting it dry, or in between carving sessions, you know, really should help prevent splitting. As I say, I won't make any guarantees for you, but I do find that it does seem to help. So there's the chamfers on that edge. Doesn't have to be too pronounced. There's the chamfer on the top. Again, hopefully that should just give me that little bit of additional sort of help and protection. Again, some of that spalting has kind of stayed on there. I haven't carved all the way through it. I've just put a little pencil line around the centre. Now if you look, my finger kind of goes, if I put my thumb next to it here, so, and then put my thumb back maybe here, so this pencil line, if I put my finger around the front, the pencil line is about an inch below all the way round where the bottom of the bowl is, so that when I come to finish this off, hopefully, as I say, this won't split. If it does, I can remove material all the way up to this pencil line, and still guarantee that I'm not going to cut into the bowl and ruin a perfectly nice piece of work. So again, this is going to go back into its plastic bag. I'll probably spend another 5 or 10 minutes just tidying things up and smoothing things down a little bit. You know, doing that kind of thing's never wasted work, in my opinion. It's you know, it's always nice just to sort of tidy things up when you've got a spare moment. You know, occasionally I'll kind of sit indoors with a towel over my lap, or a bed sheet or something like that, and I'll just sit there and sort of whittle away, just smoothing something down while I'm you know, sitting there with the radio on, or something like that. You can do it in front of the TV, though I wouldn't recommend it, because obviously you're dividing your attention by looking at the screen when you're you're using a very sharp knife, so probably not the best idea in the world. But again, I'll carry on, and hopefully by the time you come back and I get to part 3 of this video series, we should be in a much better position to know either A, has it started splitting and is this a bit of a waste of time, and if it hasn't, we'll move on to the next steps of finishing this down, getting it completely dried out and putting a finish on it. But I hope it was useful, guys. Comments and questions in the box below. Hit like and subscribe if you would like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Thanks, guys.